Today I'm covering the ending of The Last of Us Part 1 to explore who the real bad guy is. Don't worry, I'm not doing any major reveals for The Last of Us Part 2, so stick around whether you've beaten the new game or not. Hi guys, I'm Megan, and welcome to the Fangirl, where it's finally time for me to talk about The Last of Us again. And hey, The Last of Us 2 finally came out! Yay! Again, I'm not here to give you any big spoilers for the second game, but I am going to briefly touch on a few scenes from the beginning of the game, just that really show character but not story development. So there's your warning. In case you've somehow forgotten how The Last of Us Part 1 ended, the short version is that Joel succeeds at getting Ellie to the Firefly base, and Marlene is already there, which makes me wonder why she was so positive that Ellie needed to be smuggled by a third party in the first place. But as it turns out, to get to Ellie's immunity and save all of humanity with this vaccine, they have to kill Ellie and essentially blend up her brain. Now, Joel finds out about this plan to kill Ellie at the last minute, and he saves her, killing every Firefly that stands in his way. You get him, Papa Bear. But Joel, who's presented as this tough, hardened man, should really want this vaccine. Seriously, who doesn't want the world to start returning to normal? However, Joel just cannot handle the idea of letting Ellie go. She's not his child, and Joel doesn't even seem to like Ellie at the beginning of their story arc. But Ellie definitely hits a nerve because Joel's never fully processed the death of his own daughter, Sarah. And Joel is very much like one of those dogs who they need a job or else they just get depressed and start having behavioral issues. So giving this hopeless, bitter, disenfranchised, middle-aged man a new child to protect, it just reactivated all of his dad's senses. So no way Joel was gonna stand by and lose Ellie like he lost Sarah. The problem is, those two situations were very different. Sarah had been shot by a dude who was just following orders during the start of the outbreak. Ellie, though, was sacrificing herself to save the entire world. But there's also a less talked about issue in there too, because no matter what happened, Ellie's choice was eliminated from the equation. On the one hand, the Firefly doctors seem very aware that Ellie would have to die, and they just brought her into a room and knocked her out with drugs so that they could kill her without ever talking to her about it. The ending of this game plays out so quickly that a lot of people feel like Joel turns into the villain. He's suddenly gone from this guy who really wants a cure to somebody who is willing to destroy the world over one person. However, in the dialogue, it comes off really strongly that the doctors told Ellie they were gonna put her under to do some tests, not to die. You see, Marlene says that's what she'd want, and that's a huge assumption. That's what she would want, is taking the choice away from Ellie. If they had spoken to Ellie and she had agreed to it, they would have said that's what she wants. It would be a fact. So considering that the apocalypse has been going on for well over a decade at this point, what is the rush to just kill Ellie and take her brain right off the bat? Why would you be such a callous, horrible medical team that you don't even give this child a chance to say or write down her final goodbyes? I mean, hey, if her immunity did turn into a cure, then Ellie would pretty much be the founder of the next era of human survival. So even for the sake of history, her final words would have been very important. And to just bypass all of that and not even give a teenage girl a great last meal like a convict on death row would get, that means the Fireflies had to believe that Ellie would have said no. Maybe she wouldn't want to be the savior of mankind. So instead of taking any risk, the Fireflies decided to take away Ellie's autonomy and decide that an orphan girl was just disposable. And that's not even exploring the fact that the Fireflies are pathetic. Literally, their one function in the game is to already be dead before you can ever get to any of the meeting locations. And it really seems like Ellie's fate is death whenever the Fireflies are involved. Because, true here, either their doctors murder her, or their poorly trained soldiers get her killed. There's like no in-between ground. And the bottom line is really that the Fireflies suck so much that you'd do better off arming Muppet babies. And all of that means that there is an excellent chance that their doctors would have screwed up too. Without running really any tests whatsoever, they just decided that this kid's brain needed to be diced up. You've waited almost a year to get your hands on this kid, and now without knowing anything about how her immunity works, you're telling me plan A is to kill her and remove her brain. What? What about her blood, dum-dums? Obviously, whatever kept Ellie from turning was coursing through her veins and keeping an infection from setting in. So those antibodies or antifungal cream or whatever it is in there is obviously going to be present in her bloodstream. So why, oh why, would you not spend at least several weeks or months testing Ellie's blood before you go straight for the brain and exterminate the one person who could save the world? Because, you know, once you kill her, you only have the one chance to get the vaccine right. Ellie's not gonna respawn a new brain just because the Fireflies screwed something else up again. You don't guess at science, and not important sciences like this. So even if you look at the ending of the game as Joel dooming the world by saving Ellie, did he really? Or was this vaccine just one more pipe dream that the Fireflies were about to screw up anyways? My money's on the latter option, because really, if the Fireflies had made a vaccine, I could see it being like I Am Legend. Like, oh, I thought my shot would cure cancer, but it made zombies. Oops. But on the other hand of this choice issue, let's talk about what actually did happen in the game. Joel saves Ellie despite being told by the Firefly doctors that this is what she would have wanted. And maybe she would have, but that's not anybody else's assumption to make. So really, Joel is fighting for freedom of choice here. Well, at least it starts out that way. Remember, Ellie is completely out of it during her involuntary rescue. But she is very suspicious of what happened, and I think that's mostly because she woke up in a moving vehicle. You would think that if Ellie's immunity was worthless, like Joel claimed it was, then the Fireflies would at least say that to her face. And of course, Joel does take the lie a step further and say, oh yeah, turns out there's tons of people who are immune and you're nothing special, and it just doesn't have the ring of truth to it. I think that's the point where Ellie stops putting her full faith into Joel, and it definitely bleeds over into the second game. Again, I'm about to talk about the first few scenes of The Last of Us Part 2, but nothing major is going to be revealed. It is very peculiar that Joel goes back to Jackson where his brother Tommy is, and he gets this huge house, but Ellie lives in a small shack in the back of the property. Joel's house had more than enough room for a giant Mormon family to live in there, so Ellie must have really dug in her heels and demanded her own space. And that's abnormal because Ellie's been very chatty and somewhat clingy throughout the entire game. She had no one in her life and was bound for a military lifestyle before she was bitten, and she clearly craved adult approval and attention to the point where she was always clamoring to get Joel's approval and attention. So Ellie's suspicion at waking up in the back of the car and hearing this weird story that doesn't sound quite right, it had to put a huge wedge between them. And even when Joel comes to teach Ellie how to play the guitar, which was something she seemed a little excited about before, he's met with all but indifference. Ellie's polite enough, but just seeing Joel seems to make her act exhausted. I mean, sure, teenage attitude and all, but it really plays off like there's a trust that has been broken and Ellie's not really sure what to do with it. She's upset, but she can't really prove anything to justify her feelings. And Joel can definitely pick up on that tension because he seems to be walking on eggshells around Ellie, and he's smart enough to give her some space. More or less, Joel acts like he's guilty, and I think Ellie's feeding on that too, and it's making her think something is off, something is wrong, I'm right to be unsettled. Because, you know, it is kind of weird when you travel the country with somebody and they spend the entire time acting put out to be around you and then always giving you orders, and then you get to a place where you're settled and you don't have to be together, and Joel is all but silently pleading for her not to leave him. You can really sense that fear out of Joel because he's not really confident that he did the right thing. But Joel's also still right on top of Ellie like a watchdog, even going as far as to getting into fights with people who call her a name. So Joel has decided that Ellie is his target and he's gonna protect her no matter what the cost. But truly, I don't see the ending of The Last of Us as a discussion for whether or not Joel did the right thing. Joel may have acted on emotions, but he's not a bad guy. He didn't harm all of humanity by saving Ellie because it's taking a huge leap of faith to assume that the Fireflies could manage any kind of vaccine at all. The bottom bottom line is the Fireflies are not that competent. They are attention-seeking glory hunters who would kill a child in the hopes of controlling a vaccine that they could barter with to get whatever they wanted out of the rest of the world. Do you really think that the Fireflies were these humanitarians that are going to give the vaccine away to whoever wants it? Or would they only inject their own soldiers so that they would become nearly unstoppable? And okay, what if they had been these super nice guys who had given the vaccine to everybody on the planet? How many people do you think would have trusted it? The Fireflies are basically a terrorist organization to everybody in quarantine. So yeah, I highly doubt many people would have trusted any vaccine that they made. And it doesn't explain their urgency on how they could wait for Ellie for almost a year, but then they have to kill her basically the same day they get her. There's no time for tests, there's no time for science, just kill her and get the brain gene! I think the Fireflies needed a vaccine immediately because they were using it to grow their own army and recruit new people by saying, hey, if you want a cure to the apocalypse, just join with the Fireflies and we'll give you a little shot. Squirt, squirt. Fireflies ain't slick, I see what they're up to. And they're really the villains if you sit down and think about who did what in this game. They go against peace and order, they're building a militia, they're doing whatever they want despite whatever government or local quarantine zone rules are, and they don't care who they hurt in the process. And that includes their own recruits because they're all so poorly armed and trained that they die at the drop of a hat, literally. I mean, are they falling on their own bayonets? How are they this bad at everything? So you guys go put your salt away for Joel because he's a good surrogate daddy and he's keeping the savior of the world safe until a better solution comes along. Now that we're seeing other things in The Last of Us Part 2, who's to say that there aren't other doctors out there who could use a non-lethal method to get a cure out of Ellie? But killing Ellie and dissecting her brain as your first choice is not a smart, scientific, or even humane way to do things. So no, Fireflies are bad, Joel's good, Ellie is oblivious, because I promised I wouldn't give any spoilers and I'm not. It might not be reality, but theories are more fun. Hey guys! Let me just move these little bits away. I'm not gonna do a whole crazy after video vloggy special here, but I just wanted to kind of get in a little bit on the statue I had sitting on the side because the details on this thing are fantastic. I love her so much. I'm really kind of debating ordering the Ellie statue where she's got like the bow and arrow and she's all bloody. I think she looks so cool. So much detail. The only thing is like some of these details, like the material, I don't know how well you can see it, but the material is really flexy. Like I don't think it would break super easy, but there's a lot of really delicate pieces that I think could break without a ton of effort. But this was part of the Last of Us Collector's Edition, I think. Collector's Set, Collector's Edition, something like that. And I love it. I didn't expect it to be that large. I actually have a whole unboxing video for the Collector's Edition if you want to check that out. But I just wanted to take a minute and brag on this statue because I love her. I just started collecting statues a couple of months ago with the DC Universe exclusive statues. So I'm digging it at the moment. Anyways, like I said, this was a little bit long of a theory, I think. So I won't keep you guys forever, but thanks for watching and see you next time, guys. Would help if I started recording my audio. It really would, I think. Ba-da-da. It's very peculiar that Joel goes back to It's very peculiar that Joel goes back to Jack's. So, remember, Ellie is completely What the heck is going... Remember, Ellie is completely unconscious during... Unconscious? The short version is that Joel succeeds at getting Ellie to the The short version is that Joel succeeds at getting Ellie to the Firefly The short version is that Joel succeeds at getting Ellie to the Firefly The short version is that Joel succeeds at getting Ellie to the Firefly What is wrong with my mouth? The short version is that Joel succeeds at getting Ellie to the Firefly The short version is that Joel succeeds at getting Ellie to the Firefly Well, family members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey Megan, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Family. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Family and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, family members. Bye.